So, Lise, is Lise here? No. So welcome to this session, and thank you to come very early in the conference center. We are here to hear tales from implementation, progress, and perspectives, and so I hope it will be great tales with good stories, and maybe some fair with the prince coming after at the end of the story to save the world. So Martin, you will be the first hero of the tale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, everything is working. Good morning. This was the wake-up call, 9 o'clock. My name is Martin Lenk. I'm working at the moment for the Federal Ministry for Environment in Germany. Many years I worked in the coordination office, and now I changed somehow my perspective working in the ministry. And there I learned some new lessons, and that's why I chose the title, Finding the Right Environment for Inspire Implementation. And I think the title already, well, somehow has a message I have. We have to look especially on the environmental sector when we do implementation, and that will be one of the main messages of my presentation. The time is very short, so I thought this time I do not present an overview. It's very brief. I just start with my first slide, and here I'd like to point out what is actually the objective, the goal, the vision of the Inspire Directive. And if you look on the first page, there isn't really a technical approach. That's what we do a lot, technical implementations. It says it very clear, SDI should assist policies and activities being linked with environment. And I think this is one of the main vision, and if we do implementation, we really need to look, do we fulfill this goal? I just like to point out this section down here. Time is not enough to read that, but that's the point where really the goal is set up for Inspire. So not just looking on technical implementation, it's a tool. I very much liked the presentation yesterday in the plenary session from our Czech colleague who said Inspire is the way, it's not the goal. And I think I really found myself there as well. So this directive, you all know, came into power basically 7 years ago, and you know the implementation plan, it's another 7 years. So in the language of World Cup, which we have nowadays, you could say we have half time, and that is the moment when we need to lean back maybe and try to find the place where we stand, if we are at the right moment. This picture is not very good because it might has the message, please show me the exit out of this maze. That's not my message, but the message is we need to really hold in and see if we are on the right way, especially with our SDI tools. Are we really on the right way to, in the long vision, support Inspire policies? So Commission member states and stakeholders, not just the Commission, I think we all together need to take a good look onto the recent state and define the way towards success, very important in the sense of the directive. So we are at the moment, and I will explain that in the next slides in a moment, at the moment in a phase where we do some kind of evaluation. We should look at the toolbox we have, and if you look inside the directive, you can actually find a quite a few of these tools. One of these tools we are carrying out since years, and I don't want to explain what we do there. I think there are loads of other presentations about monitoring and reporting. I think you're all somehow involved. So Article 21 says one of the toolbox on a member state level mostly is monitoring and reporting. Another tool we have is also written down in the directive is Article 23. In Article 23, there is one of the very few obligations for the Commission itself, basically to provide a report of implementation towards the European Parliament. It has to be done this year, actually on May the 15th, 7 years after, but the Commission explained already that there is a understandable delay, but I guess at the end of the year this report will be presented. So that is another, I think, strong tool after 7 years to do a strong analysis. Where do we stand? What are we implementing? And do we really reach the goals of the directive? Another tool not written down in the directive, and I also think that's a very good tool, and I'm very grateful that we created that together with the Commission, the Member States and the Commission, is the maintenance and implementation structure and work program. There were quite a few presentations here already during the conference to introduce this kind of structure and the work program, so my intention is not basically to go there into details, but my next comments, my next slides will have some comments on those three tools which are very important for us at the moment, and at the end of the presentation I also have a comment on what we do actually in Germany. Very important is the fact that we can say we actually have everything we need. We're not just working, we have a big toolbox for evaluation, but really that is already a message here on that slide. A target-oriented approach is actually what we need. So in the next slides we look at these three tools. The first of all, I'd have a comment on monitoring and reporting, and without explaining what we do there, I think you know it all quite well. I must say in Germany it's a very powerful tool to support our national coordination and to carry out some technical quality control. We are very grateful for whatever, you know, it's inside this regulation, this kind of decision from the Commission, because it helps us really to analyze where we stand with technical implementation. Well, that is the good side, but as you know, in Germany we're always a bit critical and we always have a big but. So as a German I say our but is, even the old Greek knew, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You probably know this saying from Aristotle, very old, and I think it's very true. With monitoring and reporting, we're not actually looking at the objective of the directive. It's not enough, we just look at the technical implementation of the member states. So what we need is an extended approach for checking impacts, especially on European level and other kinds of cross-border issues. I come to this on my last slide later. Look on the second tool. The second tool is the report of implementation, which has to be carried out by the Commission during this year. You might not be, well, that much confident with this project, because that is something which is at the moment being carried out by the Commission itself, and it hasn't got such a, well, stakeholder approach like monitoring and reporting. But the Commission explained to the Member State last year what they tried to carry out with this report of implementation, which will probably be published, well, maybe at the mid of this year or by the end of the year. They said to the Inspire Committee, the purpose of this evaluation is a kind of policy evaluation to judge results and impacts of legislation, regulation against the desired effect of implementation. There's a very strong message here. We have to look what is the objective of the directive, and we have to really look, are we on the right way? They call it an interim policy evaluation. I think that is the right approach. They don't expect that everything is done yet, but they basically look, are we on the right way? So they also informed the member state that what they want to use to produce this evaluation is basically everything what is available on the Inspire website, including monitoring and reporting, and also they'd like to undertake a public stakeholder survey. You're probably quite familiar. You saw this survey. It was published in December and I think closed in January, and I come back to this survey in a minute. The organization, they said, to carry out this task is a steering group, which is in my eyes more or less the Inspire team, plus an organization called Sochi, chaired by Eurostat. They are responsible for coordination of geo-information inside the Commission and an association of cooperation with the Inspire national contact points. I think all these points are very, very good. We were very pleased when we heard that. One criticism here is, I think the involvement of the Inspire national contact points is at the moment a bit low. We would expect maybe a bit of a closer cooperation if I have all the information. So let's look at this thing we all saw when it was done by the Commission. This is the report of implementation to European Parliament. I think, I must say, I liked all the questions which were inside the survey. The survey itself was published, I think, a couple of months ago. I wrote down the website. You can look there, and it's very, very interesting. 64 pages, if I have it right in my mind. And what I like here, I cannot, in this time frame, really go into details, but what I really like is the distribution of this survey. I think it was very successful, and that is a big compliment to the Commission. 698 organizations and persons answered, and I myself, I know we answered these questions very serious. We spread it around in our organization, and we tried to do that very correct, and I guess loads of others did as well. And another issue which was very positive is that here on international level, 231 contributors took part, somehow organization it says, who are involved with geodata, with spatial data and services in an international context. I think this is basically the main customer cross-border issues of Inspire, and very important that this was well. So we can be quite pleased, I think, with this survey. Also, I think it's only one part of this evaluation report. So last comment on the report of implementation to European Parliament is it's a huge and positive effort to produce this evaluation report, and I think the public consultation was a good approach for analyzing Inspire stakeholders' perspectives. Very good, but here comes the German but. It's not enough, I think. I think what we have to expect from this report of implementation, and I hope there will be a kind of dialogue with the member states, is we need to look more at the impacts. We do not just need to look how many services do we really produce. We really need to look what did the Inspire directive already do in the last 7 years. For instance, what's happening with new legislation when directives are somehow changed or written completely new? Are the Inspire rules considered? Another question is, how does it work with e-reporting? Is that based on Inspire approach? I know there are a lot of activities to do this, but really, have we got information to have an opinion how good and how successful that works? So I think that is the main questions. And again, since we heard in the last years of Inspire conferences, the word use cases is very important. When we do this evaluation, we'd like to see real use cases in an especially cross-border context. Coming to the third tool, the MIG structure and work program. I think, without explaining what you see there on the right side, that was explained yesterday in a session here, with this structure, which was basically created by the Commission and agreed with the member state, we have a very sustainable, very positive working structure, which was not foreseen in the directive, and we can be very happy that we have a kind of structure where we can look on, let's say, troubleshooting with what was written down in those Inspire papers. I think the work program, if you look on the work program, which was also published, is focused clearly on improvements of the directives. And another point which I really find very positive from the Federal Ministry of Environment, the involvement of the European Environmental Agency is very strong in the whole process of Inspire now, and also in this working structure. And I think that is very, very important, working in the field of environmental policies, that the EEA is very good involved. Anyway, the German but, not to forget, I think very important, cooperation and networking of MIG members is crucial for success. Does the left hand really know what the right hand is doing? That is the question. Are they really the e-reporting experts from EEA, from member states, really involved? Maybe not sitting in this kind of working group, but being very close connected. We try to find that out in Germany, and in some points I think it's quite successful. And in other fields of e-reporting, we think there is still a good lack, and there are on one hand new e-reporting guidance documents under work, and they are not basically, we think, considered clearly in this work program. Evaluation and maintenance must be coupled. All measures must be connected to the overall objectives. I think this is a strong message for the future. Whatever comes out from the evaluation report has to go into this work program. So, not only talking about Europe, talking about Germany, a last comment is how do we implement as a member state? Time is very short now, but anyway, there's only 3 slides, I think, which are left. Since 2005, we created, like in loads of other member states, a national SDI called GDITE. I think altogether we can be quite pleased. We have thousands of data sets. For instance, if you look in monitoring services, we have central components, and technically we're quite satisfied. But even in Germany, we have our big but, not only on the European level. I think beyond national SDI community, Inspire is more often a burden than a support. That's something we have to realize. We do not help these people who do e-reporting, and e-reporting is still not an issue of SDI, and Inspire implementation is more like a parallel world. Sorry to say that. So what did we do new? We had a new working group. This working group is really new because it has an assignment of the German Conference of Environmental Ministers. That's the highest political level. And here we're trying to put these things together, e-reporting on one hand and Inspire implementation on the other hand. The working group is composed not only by SDI people, it is also accompanied by experts from thematic fields. The task is to check Inspire and reporting applications for finding critical points and addressing especially to the maintenance and implementation group, but also create documents which are helpful and supportful for Inspire implementation, for instance, prioritization or optimizing data flows. And for sure, it's an information panel for SDI and thematic communities. Last slide. Minute 15, sorry, I probably need 1 minute longer. Some conclusions, I think this is my message. Evaluation process, which is under work at the moment, has to include Inspire implementation on the European level, not looking into the member states, and also especially looking in environmental administration tasks, for instance, e-reporting. The monitoring indicators should be really revised in my eyes. How can we measure successful impacts related to Inspire vision, rather than compliance of thousands of data sets, also important but not enough. And EU legislation needs to be checked and driven towards Inspire. Coordination structure is already connected to the environmental communities, but I think there needs to be another extension, and this needs to be stronger. This is not only a responsibility for the Commission, this is a responsibility also in the member states. We really have to cooperate with our different communities if we want to implement Inspire successful. So there were a lot of German buts. That is the end of my presentation, and I thought I need to now say something positive. Thanks to Oscar Wilde. Thank you for your attention.
So we have no time, but if you have a question, we can let some second to Martin. Any question? So Martin, you were talking about the strong involvement of European Agency for Environment. So by hazard, we have Paul Hasenohr from the EEA. And Paul, you will talk about monitoring.
Exactly. So, thank you for being here, now large audience. I'm going to speak about the Inspire monitoring and reporting, mainly about monitoring indeed, and focus also a lot about the results of the monitoring exercise that has been carried out so this year, where member states have reported by 15th of May of this year about the status of implementation of INSPIRE in 2013. And then we will have a look at the ongoing work that is currently taking place in the framework of the MIG that has just been presented before. Currently, so the work going on around monitoring. So you have already heard part of that in the previous presentation. So monitoring and reporting, there is a regulatory framework. The part legally binding is Article 21 of the INSPIRE directive that says that member states then have to report about the status of implementation of INSPIRE in their countries, and for that there are two different ways, the monitoring and the reporting. We'll see just that in a minute. And then there is a Commission decision that is implementing the directive, especially about monitoring and reporting. In addition to that, then, as usual with INSPIRE, we have quite a lot of extra documents, guidelines, justification document, templates, and also some supporting tools. I mean, as usual, you have the legal part that is not very long, and you have a lot of other documentation. Monitoring. What is monitoring? It is a way to collect data that is of a quantitative nature. For example, the number of conformant or non-conformant data sets and services, the number of hits or requests received by the various services. And we will see quite a few of them in the coming slides. Monitoring takes place every year, and technically speaking, member states are providing the information. So once a year, either through an Excel template or via XML. While reporting is providing an information of a qualitative nature that takes the form of a report, a Word document, and that's provided every 3 years, and that has been provided last year. And for reporting, to help the member states, we provide a template of the document. So now if we have a look at the monitoring, so monitoring is based then on indicators. Indicators are constructed based on variables. So I think that one key point to have in mind is what are the number of special data sets we are speaking about. As it has already been said before, the number itself is not necessarily what is more important, especially if you compare from one country to another. What is then interesting is to compare the indicators. But still, what is interesting here is to see the evolution from 2012 to 2013. You will see that for most member states, the number of data sets reported remained stable. And while you have for 4 or 5 of them great change. Don't forget that it's a logarithmic scale. Huh? So it's you have 1,000 on the right, while it starts with 10, 50, 100. So I mean, pay attention. It's not linear. So there are then, as I said, several indicators. So the first one I want to present is about existence of metadata. So that is the ratio between data sets for which there are metadata versus all the data sets that are reported. Here, data sets and services, sorry for this one. So as you see, the situation is quite good. The countries in gray are the ones who have not yet reported for this year. If we look at the existence of metadata, one thing to keep in mind that some countries who are at 1 because they are only reporting metadata, or they are only reporting the data sets for which they have metadata. Therefore, of course, then they have a perfect indicator there. So that's for the various themes. We see Annex 1, Annex 2, and Annex 3 so is not as good as the first two annexes, while for services it is in the same range as for Annex 1 and Annex 2. If we have now a look at the conformity of the metadata, so for datasets and services, that's MDI2, the indicator, so that the ratio between the datasets and services for which the metadata is conformant versus the total number of datasets and services which have been reported. And here we see that it is quite good, but it's not anymore as good as MDI2 was. And if we look in more details, Annex 1, most of the countries are doing well, most, I said. MDI 2.2, we are in the same situation. But then 2.3, so Annex 3, that's already decreasing a lot in terms of conformity of metadata. And for the conformity of special data services, it's also not that great yet. Now, I would like to change slightly. We will look at the accessibility of the metadata. So, accessibility of metadata through the discovery services, that's the indicator NSI1, and here that's really very good in most of the countries. And that's one of the key points, I mean, that the first step to have Inspire also really working, you need to know which data are available, and then therefore you need to have the metadata available through discovery services. I mean, that's really one key point, and that is quite well successful currently. Now, if we look at the special dataset availability and conformity, unfortunately the picture will not be anymore as nice as it was for metadata. Number of special datasets reported, that's the same thing, the same slide as you have seen previously. But now, here the number of conformant special datasets. And here the scale is not logarithmic anymore. On the right, it's not 1,000. On the right, it's 40. So, as you can see, there is a difference in scale, definitely. The order of magnitude is not the same at all. That's for Annex 1. For Annex 2, it's even worse. And for Annex 3, surprisingly, I mean, it's getting, it's nice to see that Annex 3 is somewhat similar also to Annex 1. Of course, we are just now in the process of getting conformant, making the special datasets conformant. So there is nothing surprising with these results. That's normal. But that's what hopefully next year we'll see that these charts maybe will have again have to use a logarithmic scale if we are lucky. So that means of course that the indicator of conformity of special data set is bad all over Europe. Then that's Annex 1, Annex 2, Annex 3, and now we move to accessibility of special datasets through view and download services. So which datasets have conformant metadata and are accessible through a view and a download service. Some member states are indeed doing very well, but most of the member states are not that successful there. While if you look at the view services, I mean, view services is good. It's good. In most countries is reasonably good. Download services, that's where there is really some problem, I would say. And when you combine view and download, then that's what we saw before. That's really not great at all. Network services availability and conformity now. That's the number of network services reported. again, comparing from one country to the other does not make much sense. What makes sense can be just to keep an order of magnitude. I mean, just to have this idea. We go up to 10,000 to the right, that I think is for Germany, and to see the variation from one country to another. I mean, that's useful to keep in mind when you look at the indicators. Now, so here that was number of network services reported. Now we have a look at the conformant network services. And look, we are lucky here. It's still a logarithmic scale. So we are still in the same range, I would say, between conformant network services and reported network services. Not at all like for the special data sets where we were not at all in the same order of magnitude. Again, that's normal because it's linked to the timetable of the implementation of Inspire, so that's perfectly logical. Conformity of discovery network services, it's good, and that's a good news. It's good in most of the countries. And some improvements, of course, are possible, but somehow it's not bad. View network services, that's already getting a lot more problematic. Few countries have really conformant view network services. And in terms of interoperability, it is something quite important. Now, conformity of download services, then that's even worse. I mean, very few member states have a good indicator on conformant download network services. And just to conclude, a few words about the ongoing work about around monitoring. You will, for those of you who know all the indicators, you will have noticed that some indicators were not presented here. I have only 15 minutes, so I could not put all of them. So the ongoing work around monitoring, in the framework of the MIG, there is the work package number 16 that aims at improving the usefulness and reliability of monitoring information. This group has been has been active since January this year and has been set up as a follow-up of a workshop about monitoring and reporting that took place with national contact points and Inspire reporters last year in October or November in Copenhagen. And the focus is on maximizing the automation and monitoring process and conceiving a dashboard for easy access to up-to-date, non-legally binding monitoring information. And there will be a presentation about this afternoon. So thank you very much, and if you have any question, if we have time for question, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Paul, to be short on this very important business. I have a question because it's very important, as you know well. You say compliance, non-compliant, but compliant with what? Technical guidelines or implementing rules?
For which one? Well, for all the presentation?
For all the presentation.
It is based on what the member state declare as being conformant or not conformant.
Okay, thank you. Any question in the room?
Any reaction from the European Environment Agency? Those are the indicators. Are there any reaction? Are we going to change policies, or are you going to change policies? My perception is that the problem is on the data, not on the informatics, on the computer science, because network services are almost all conformant. But the data seems to be a problem. Are, let's say, somebody going to finance the migration, the harmonization part on the data side? Or
Thank you.
I will just briefly answer. I mean, the data are not conformant yet is quite normal, as the roadmap for Inspire gives still some years for member states to make the data sets conformant. So, and in terms of financing, I mean, I'm sorry that I have no answer to provide on this topic.
Yeah, in fact, the answer is the member states have to pay. It's a true answer.
Thank you for providing the answer.
So it's very important business, but we have very few time. Thank you again, Paul. And I give the floor to Pascal Lory from France. Is Lise Schrøder here? Not yet.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Pascal Lory, as Marc said, from IGN France, the French mapping agency. And I'm going to present you now the French coordinating structure, according to INSPIRE, which is the CNIG, and the CNIG means French National Council of Geographic Information. So on the scope of my presentation this morning, first the context of the CNIG in France, then legal framework and organization of the CNIG, and communications and connections around the CNIG, and the preliminary results of its implementation in France. So the context first. What are we talking about? Marc is going, will recognize this slide. In France, there are not only Paris, of course, but also 27 regions and 101 departments. And the top is around 36,000 municipalities. So France is has been a very centralized country, but the trend this last 30 years is to decentralize. And in this decentralized context, there's a strong need for coordination. About legal framework, the CNIG has been established by a decree 2011, and this decree describes organization of the CNIG, but the most important point is that the CNIG is now the French coordinating structure according to INSPIRE. About position, the CNIG reports to the Minister of Sustainable Development, which is also the contact point according to INSPIRE in France. Further than INSPIRE, the CNIG's objectives are to inform the government about the field of geographic information, take the needs expressed into account, and especially the users' needs, provide advice on any matter relating to geographic information, and respond to inquiries from the Minister on draft law and regulation. So, as you can observe, the CNIG is not a decision-making structure, but an advisory body responsible for making recommendations, and only recommendations. About the general meeting, it's composed with 35 members and 15 members from the French state, Ministry of course, Sustainable Development, but also housing, defense, etc., and other public institutes involved in the field of GI, like IGN, the French mapping agency, but also the Geological Agency, Hydrological Agency, etc. 8 local authorities, in fact, association of local authorities, like Association of French Mayors, big city mayors, small cities, etc., departments, regions, private sector groups, 4 members like S3 France, and the National Order of Land Surveyors, non-governmental organization like Afigeo, the French member of Eurogi, 2 trade unions, and the chairperson. So there's now a satisfactory balance between national and local levels.
About the organization. The CNIG chairperson is Roland Courteau, a member of the parliament, a senator, a local elected. That's an important point, to have a president which is a local elected. And why him especially? Because he has signed a report on the French risk of tsunami on French coasts, which has involved the creation of very accurate databases on the bottom elevation of the near the French coast. The organization chart, so you find the chairperson, Roland Courteau, but also the managing director from the Ministry of Sustainable Development, the contact point, Laurent Tapadinas, and the support, which is supplied by IGN France, 2 civil servants. And the CNIG can establish different committees and working groups within it. So there's 3 committees very connected with INSPIRE. And these committees are Data Committee, Territorial Development Committee, and Implementation Rules Committee. I talk about it in a few slides later. But the most important point is that the CNIG is based on 350 contributing members, very active contributing members, which are working in the various committees and the various groups which made up this organization. In fact, it's the art of the CNIG, and for instance, the support is just the pacemaker. Without contributing members, there's no CNIG. About Data Committee, the first committee connected to INSPIRE, the chairperson is a former member of the parliament, a chairperson of AFIGEO also, Dominique Caillot, and one of its objectives is to list the data sets and services as imposed by the INSPIRE directive. But further than INSPIRE, this committee also ensure the attachment of scattered working groups, groups which are working on digitalization of urban planning documents, on design and nomenclature for land use also. And there was a lack of national recognition for this group. This group are producing documents, and they needed a label, and CNIG gave this label for national recognition. Still, the Data Committee, there's also a group which is working on designing and implementation of the very large-scale reference databases, nomenclature and organization. This database is a very accurate database, needed, especially needed in the urban areas, and to determine with high accuracy all the networks of buried pipes. And once again, the CNIG creates the conditions of constructive exchange between all the stakeholders, because you have very different stakeholders in this group, networks, companies, local authorities, and national actors like IGN or Land Surveyor, and there was a need of a neutral place to discuss and to discuss for all these stakeholders. The second committee, territorial development, 5 minutes. It's also a member of a regional council, and this committee regroups all the SDI in France, and its objectives are coordinate national and regional level, exchange experience, promote creations of new SDI, and help with seeking funds also, of course. There was a need. SDI are very different from one region to another, and there was a strong need to unite and to get organized. And once again, the CNIG was the solution. So last committee, the chairperson is a civil servant from the Ministry of Sustainable Development, and you know him, he's a chairperson, also chairperson today of this session. And the objectives of this committee is to produce French remarks on projects of European regulation, formulate recommendation from rules, publish French guidelines, and 2 working groups are attached to this committee, metadata group and service group. And what we observe is that the CNIG is an essential link in INSPIRE's communications. Very quickly, and the communication and connections, there's a website, a CNIG website, and that we perform, and we have now about 1,500 visitors per month. There's also an INSPIRE website in French. We perform about also 1,500 visitors per month. A Twitter account with 300 followers. And we try to publish 2 or 3 newsletters every month, and we have now more than 700 subscribers. About the results, preliminary results, the CNIG implementation has led to several preliminary results. So first, as I've already said, there was a lack of coordination, a lack of national recognition, and the CNIG provides this essential umbrella group. Every stakeholder can take part of the CNIG, the different committee or working group. So this structure promotes collaboration among the members. And what we observe also is that the CNIG is considered, and it is, a neutral, a representative structure of the power and the responsibilities in France, open and fully transparent. So the CNIG gives confidence. And as I already said, it's an essential link in INSPIRE's communication. So my main message through this presentation is the INSPIRE imposed coordinating structure, the CNIG, and the CNIG is now essential for several national issues, and these issues consolidate INSPIRE. So there's now a new virtuous circle. The CNIG has initiated this circle with INSPIRE development, deployment. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pascal. Sorry, we have 5 minutes late, so I will give you the floor. Is Lise Schrøder here?
Good morning. So I've tried to show you something about Italy, a screenshot about Italy, what we have done in the 7 years, what we want to do in the next years. We try to show you. Oh, 2 questions. We start. Where we are. After 7 years, where we are, what we have done with how many service or data or metadata we have realizing, which is the structure of an Italian organization, SDI. The second question is, where will you go? We will go to Sussex to have a new step, or we go back to restart to building a whole. I mean, you see. Before starting, we have an organization, a regional organization. So Italy is more or less like Germany and Spain, a federation system. So we have a regional node point and national point. We have a national agency and a regional agency. Also for environmental aspect, we have a national and a regional agency. So we have a federal system, and each region have a system and data providers who want provide data and to be sure that all the processes is the right versus. So we have spent in the last 7 years a lot of time and money to set up spatial data infrastructure, regional connected with the municipality or province, so with more local authority or national infrastructure. And we have spent a lot of money and a lot of time to set up job portal, discovery service, view service, metadata, and also now also download service. And so, but this money, I think I'll back later to talk about the money and the cost and benefits. In some cases, is not losing totally. Or, I mean, is a starting point. You can see here that all our regional authority have a job portal with you can find view service, discovery service, metadata, and in some cases download service. And most of these have a license modules defined. So most of the activity has been done in the right versus like INSPIRE implementation rules. I mean. We not have so much discrepancy, but at the end we have some problem with the coordination of that activity. We have also national point. The national point or national node is for low part is the 3 node, because one part of the laws indicate, I don't know if indicate this one as the metadata catalog. This one is the point of access for view service or data. And this one that is representing ISPRA. ISPRA is my organization. ISPRA is in charge to implementing technical implementation of ISPRA inside Italy. So we have the technical coordination of both, and we have a piece of law that say that we need to archive all the data that's also not covered by ISPRA, but is relevant for environmental aspects. So especially from the research and university that is not directly involved in ISPRA, that do not have data for environmental aspect that needed to be compliant with ISPRA. So we have a wider perspective than not ISPRA in this case. But at the end, all the data is possible to be served in ISPRA format. And in fact, we have a strange organization. We have a federated system where ISPRA is federated by National Council of Research that also provide WMS, WFS, and Discovery Service, and also CNIG is part of the developer of a broken approach that is the system that is behind the GEOs. So it's an interesting part of our connection and federation system of the catalog. We have a catalog of the catalogs, and we manage all the region authority that's also provide metadata in the national catalog, like RND is the national report, territorial report for data. So in this perspective, we not have a real body like France, but we have a certain of a system where the digital agency, of Italy is responsible for the metadata catalog. The environmental minister is responsible for ISPRA implementation, and ISPRA is the technical coordinator for all the piece of the Italy composite. Anyway, and this one is what we have done in the 7 years. So, but at the end, we are in the middle of a system. We are in the end point. We finish the implementation rule, so is it the end point or is it start point? Really, is two different views of the same part. So really, we are in the middle of the activity, and the activity is changing just in the scope. In the first part of the scope is defining the rule, the legal aspect of implementation. But now we have the maintenance implementation framework and the maintenance implementation group. We have a pool of experts, and we have to pass from the legal aspect to real implementation. Operational activity. And also because we have a specification for data, so we need to go to working on the data and then to provide data with a view, the loading, or discovery service. So in some case we will back in the system and we're starting again, but with a new vision of the activity. And then we have to take into consideration that also inspired have to drive with the new technology, the new fashion activity or digital activity like open data or semantic parts. So in really, if you look into the technical guidelines of ISPRA, not see so much about link data or link open data or open data. Really, we have something inside, but not exactly clearly define it. And also we have to consider some new technology or some part that we not have implemented in the ISPRA regulation, like SOS or WTS. So in fact, more of the activity of the MIG, the Maintenance Implementation Group, go in that direction. And this, in most cases, represent a real afraid for the regional authority and local authority, because thinking, I'm losing my money. I need to start again the process. No, a real, when you're talking about the real interoperability, the things is little bit different. One thing is to set up a service and say, this service is interoperable. Another thing is to have two services that talking together. So in this case, the new phase, the future is to cooperate, more cooperate in the regional and national authority to have the common scope, common solution. And then we have to consider the citizen. What we want the citizen, because in most cases, ISPRA is put together the national organization, but not taking account of what want the citizen. The citizens doesn't want ISPRA data, WFS or WMS. They want application, simple application to use data. They want to see data, have an easy access of data. And they want understandable data. If you look into the GML file, most of the people not understanding anything. So if you look into the other side, the user side, they want something that is usable, not want to see technical piece. And then we have the open geodata paradigm. Now is also the European Commission push more on the open data, open geodata paradigms. In fact, our regional authority or local authority, also municipality, have set up open data portal. But let me show two examples, two very significant examples, what that means open data in most of the case. From my point of view, open data is a wider sea. It's the fashion words of the last 2 or 3 years, but not have a real direction. So INSPIRE represents the real direction, because we have a standard, we have a data model, we have a reference, and the interoperability. So if you apply the INSPIRE regulation to the open data, probably the open data working well. And show you two examples, two Italian examples, but it's very useful to understand what does mean open data in most of the case. So I think Italy is one example, but probably it's the same for the other country. This is the address example. You go to one municipality and download all the data regarding the address, the street toponymy, the topographic map. So you can see that the address name is a shapefile. I have the name. I have some cartographic information. Okay, this is good. And then we have a street toponymy, also a shapefile. We have a name of the roads. We have some cartographic information, as well organized. And then we have a topographic map. This is a polygon shapefile, so we can match it together. It's easy to manage. Also to also to rely on application. If you look into application, not so bad. But then you go to another municipality, and you have address in the shapefile point, but the nomenclature is totally different. So the two shapefiles not talking together. And you have the roads. Okay, but the roads is a line shapefile, is not a polygon like before. And also the structure is totally different. And then we have the street toponymy. This is Excel file, not talking together directly to the shapefile. If you want to realize an application, if you look into the small and medium enterprise, these two examples is not aggregatable, because not talking together. So open data is fashion words, but if not have a real right direction, like standard or regulation, not have sense. So in conclusion, regional and national nodes spend a lot of million euro in these 7 years, but this is not a real cost, because now we have infrastructure, it's ready infrastructure. Probably we have to tune, to reorganizing, but the infrastructure is ready, so it's available. We not spend so much to build a new one or to aggregate in one. The real cost is to improve the knowledge of local dissemination. In most cases, the local authority, especially municipality, doesn't know what does it means INSPIRE. Never see INSPIRE. Just the major municipality in Italy have something idea about INSPIRE. So we need to spend more money to improve the knowledge, and also to form, to improve the skill of the staff. In most cases, in the national, regional, or local authority, and this is more wider problem than not in the national, regional authority, we haven't staff or resources well formed to provide data, because one of the major target in the next years is to providing data compliant to the data model. And this requires people that is ready for that. but some benefits or message. The user needs data to improve quality of life. If you have data, and you have data available in your smartphone, probably you improve your quality. You have more knowledge about your landscape around you. The policy and the governance need data for good planning. If you have data, you have a good planning. Otherwise, not planning anything. And also, the small and medium enterprise want developed easily application, web application or mobile application that's using common standard to replicate in each country, in each part of the country. Then improve the efficiency of governance and the transparency through the citizen. So I finish. And because it's a clear system. But one question is the last question that I show you. How much to have to invest to maintain and update the infrastructure and data. This is the main problem for the next years. Because we're talking open data, we're talking to expire, but then we need money to maintain all the infrastructure and to update all the information that you want providing. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo. Please, you have to plug your computer. So we have a time for a question to Carlo. No question. So what I can say is I could have signed your presentation because we have exactly the same question in France about the cost benefits. Open data relationship with Inspire, because open data is very known by our policymakers, but you put data and you don't know how to do with. Thank you, Carlo.
Oh, I just try to put it in there.
If you have a,
I just try to switch it instead of.
If you have a question to the speakers, Paul, is your presentation will be soon in the website of the agency or the conference? If you can give me, because I don't know in your countries, but it's very important for our stakeholders to see the European vision of member states about evaluation. And in France, we use it to mobilize stakeholders and public authorities. And it's very nice to be able to see a view from outside. View from Jupiter, I would say, to understand if we are good or not. So sorry for the delay. I think Lise got some traffic jam.
Yes, and we have been quite busy about preparing the conference for the last days. So
please,
I'm
Lise,
sorry.
you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I'm Lise Schrøder. I'm working together with Henning Steen Hansen and Line Wengel, who you have seen here around for the past days. And we are working with spatial data infrastructure, GIS and planning in several connections. And this work we are presenting here is made in collaboration with Jesper Høj Skovdal from Geoforum Denmark, and it is based on some surveys that we have been working with for the past years. And there'll be, we are not having our paper in the special issue of ISDIA, but we will send a paper later on. So this will just be some initial comments on the latest surveys and the relation to the work we are doing. Yes. And I call it Inspire Implementation and Digital Governance Tendencies in the Nordic countries. And we are when we started working with those surveys, we were just beginning to implement the Inspire directive. Already now we can see, as you also have heard from several of the presentations during yesterday and today probably also, that of course we are moving towards another step of working with GIS and working with data in a very broad sense, where spatial data has become very crucial. No, we have known it has been crucial always, but it has become more common knowledge that we all need spatial information. So I'll say a little about the background for the way we are working with those issues. I'll tell you a little about the Nordic surveys, and I'll tell you a little more about how we will continue our work with those surveys. Some of them are just to be launched, and then a few concluding remarks. And I will try to make it brief so that you can have your coffee break. Yes, and we often like just to introduce by presenting this figure, because we all know how we have moved from working with the early web possibilities, working towards being more and more interacting with each other, and moving towards working very much with new ways of servicing our colleagues, our authorities, our public, and we think that it's quite illustrating how we have the technology jump in the beginning, where we have the first steps, and afterwards we try to begin to understand that we have to work in new ways instead of just putting power to existing procedures. And then now we are suddenly seeing how the political level, in a very comprehensive manner, are understanding what is happening and how we can use those techniques and possibilities. And on the same hand, they are very focused on that we have to think in new ways, because we are often very focused on how to get the technical stuff working, but to be able to transform the government services and the general ways of working in society, we have to be able to go into the new ways of dealing with the technology. And of course, that is what is happening at the moment, and we find that very, very interesting, and that is why those initially surveys which were thought as making people fit for using GIS, now we are moving towards working with open data and all those digital governmental structures that is arising around us. And one of the reasons for being interested in the Nordic countries, one approach is that, of course, the Nordic DI communities we have quite similar traditions in many ways. We have also differences, but there has been a long tradition for working together in the Nordic countries. But also in the broader perspective, comparing to the rankings at the global level, they are quite fine. Looking to Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Norway, Iceland is a little lower, but that's why we think we have something to communicate, and those rankings, they have just changed names. From the one from 2009 was called E-Readiness, and now it's called Digital Economy Ranking, and that it illustrates the point I. Thank you. The point I made before, that we are moving towards understanding that this is just not just about IT. it's about using it in a smart way in a lot of ways. And this, another ranking, this Global Information Technology report, they have Finland, Sweden, and Norway as 3 of the 5 best rankings. And it's also interesting to see what they point out. Technology-savvy society. They are very used to technology. We have the Swedish where you talk about innovation and excellent innovation ecosystem. That we have this society working with those innovation elements. And Norway also high networked society as a part of it, and they have it's mentioned here in more details. Outstanding infrastructure, 90% of the population using the internet, high levels of information. This is about Finland. Sweden has also this about world-class digital infrastructure, truly knowledge-based society. And Norway, that's some of the same elements, and they point out that especially in Norway, because we have this huge country that's quite remote from the rest of the world, and we have this population which is very spread around the country. So it's important for them to have the technology. And they also mentioned in relation to Finland that it was related to the crisis in the mid-90s, that's where they really put power on this development. The way we have worked with just a little water. The way we have worked with SDI is that we are started with the BIFAR's model from 2002, which we think is quite a good framework for illustrating the things that are happening. And, whoops, that doesn't work. That we have, as we all know, we have all the need of the access networks, we have the policies, we have the standards that has to be in place to be able to connect the people to the data. And we also now are very aware of that this picture is changing all the time. So the idea of some external dynamics always influencing how things are working is also quite obvious. And what really is happening now is that the focus from the data side of this model is moving towards the people side of it. And a lot of the technical issues is going to be hidden for most of the users. And as it also was mentioned by some of the key speakers yesterday, that we also have this challenge that a lot of people, they are not spatially aware. We have a citation from Brady Bifard, one of our own researchers working closely together with him for many years, that we have to understand this spatial enablement as a very crucial issue. And it is actually what is happening now, but still we have to be very, very aware of this issue. I haven't brought there, they have an illustration where we see the total society, and we see the DI aware part of it as a very tiny bit. And the point is that it's not necessary to get everybody totally aware of all the elements in it. It's enough just to make services so that people can use it. And of course, an important issue is that at the political level, it has gained yes, they have been aware of it. Yes, and regarding the specific Nordic GIS readiness surveys, as we call them. I don't know if we're going to change the name later on, but that was a approach that was about GIS readiness, and it is the public authorities in the countries that has got the survey. ULI, the Swedish Geoinformation Organization, has made this kind of surveys for many years, for 10 years, and GI Norden, the GI community in Norden, was very interested in trying to get it more broadly established, because it's interesting to see how things are happening in different ways and also in similar ways. So in Denmark we had the first one in 2009, and we have just finished the last one, and that's what I'm going to tell you just a little about, and there'll be much more about it in the paper that we're going to write for ISTEA. And Finland has the first one in 2010, and one is forthcoming. We are just making the last translation so that they can have the same survey as the rest of us. And we hope that Norway and Iceland would be interested in making it, but of course it takes some effort to do it, and we can't just say that they have to do it, because we have to have access to those persons that are central to contact. But especially the last one, the one Sweden finished in the last part of 2013, and we have just finished ours. It is quite similar, and the Finnish one is going to be the same. Yes, and it is obvious now we have the Swedish numbers, where we have the first one from the first of the Swedish ones were just I think that must be one of the very first ones, but it is from 2003, where we can see that only 8.5% of the users in the organizations were actually, like the employees in the organizations were actually using GIS. In 2007, it was almost doubled, and in 2013 we have 1/4. And that was just the share of the employees in the organizations working specifically with GIS. When we ask if they are using GIS in general, the number is 90%, and compared to the Danish one, it is actually 93%, but it is almost the same. So it is very obvious that only a few ones don't think that they use it, and when we go further into the details of the survey, perhaps we'll find out if it's right, because it's, of course, when we send to a specific person in an organization, it's not certain that the answer is correct, actually. But this is just some of the very initial results of it. And one of the new questions we had in the survey in Sweden and Denmark now, the last one, was about mobile. It was this one. About new ways of working with GIS. And it was quite striking that in Sweden, 43% of the organizations were actually using mobile GIS in the field. And dealing with the municipalities, it was a little more. I think it was 45. In Denmark, it is actually, the number is from a survey is 68, but still there's some uncertainty, because in Sweden the survey, there are more answers to the survey than in Denmark. There is about 200 in Sweden, and we have only about 100. So we have to do some more specific investigation of the details of the results. But still, it's the main picture is quite striking. Yes. And I'll not go much into those illustrations. It's just to illustrate that in all 3 countries there has been a huge effort towards making SDI strategies and implementing Inspire. And in Denmark it was very obvious from the beginning that we had a very obvious bottom-up approach. But now for the past years it has become more and more top-down dealing, due to the more political awareness concerning those matters. Compared to Finland, where it has been very top-down from the beginning, which also relates to what we saw in one of the first slides about the prices that they could see that we just have to do something to get this society working more efficiently for less money. So there are a lot of more detailed explanations to some of the things we see from it. Yes, but I will be finished in just a few minutes. Yes, because I don't need to go that much into it, because we, as I said, we will tell you much more in the paper. It is just from the next one is just from one with the former service, illustrating that comparing the 3 countries, it was, especially in Denmark and Sweden, it was very obvious that it was a simple use, that was the most common way of dealing with GIS, and the picture from now is about the same. And this illustration is just pointing out, it was just a summing up of what I said earlier, that we are really moving from the data side to the people side. And this one is also illustrating the same, that we have gone from working with those different directives towards a more general focus on how to work with good governance based on ICT and spatial data as a very central part of it. Some of our further research is also going on open government data, and I'll not tell you more about that. And the last one was just saying something about how we will continue, and because one of the striking conclusions from our just finished survey was that there was very much less awareness considering Inspire implementation, and perhaps it's just because it is implemented in a way that people don't have to discuss it that much. But still, there's a big focus on the need for standards and metadata. So there's still work to be done, and still also the need for easy access. Even if we have got I didn't say much about the open data part, but we have all our public data are open, and also our cadastral maps, which is quite unique. Yes, it was it. Thank you for your attention.
So, one question to Lise about her presentation.
Excuse me, due to the record, you need to use a microphone.
Oh, yes. Not me.
So again, sorry. Have you one question for Lise about her presentation? So it's difficult to conclude, but what I think is I hear many different organizations in countries, but an increasing use of a GIS with simple use. That is what Carlo was talking about in Italy and in France. I think everywhere we need data for simpler uses, and the organization, I've heard things about the needs for better coordination, to be better user-centric. So I will have to make an abstract of all your presentation for the organization. I will try to write that. So thank you for you all to attend this session. Thank you for the speakers for the very clear presentation, and to see you after in other session. Thank you. Please, Lise, if you sign.
But I'm part of the organizing people here, so
So you are in the organization staff.